So getting close to connecting my sidewalk, I decided to start from two different ends. I knew there was going to be a goofy transition somewhere, so I'm going to have it right at a bend where the sidewalk bends. So show you some of the elements to this. It's been a long project. Perhaps you've seen some of the earlier videos. The tools are really basic. I don't know what you're going to see in this video because I'm more concerned about getting a concrete pour than I am making a video right now. But you have some basic tools like this. I use a couple of different sizes. And these plant holder things I use for the extra concrete. There's always a little extra concrete. And I can make some other pavers out of them that would look similar to this one right here. So you can see that. I don't know how well you can see that, but I'm going to throw away the concrete anyway. May as well try to make some use out of it. So your first step is preparing where you're going to pour. I decided to use a heavy-duty weed barrier. This is meant for being under pavers and so forth. And of course, I'm using a form, type of a concrete form. And I've discovered this one takes right at 60 pounds of concrete, not quite 60 pounds, which is why I have a little left over each pour. So get that in place, make sure everything looks good, and then I'll mix some concrete in a mixing tub with a hoe. You can mix it however you want, wheelbarrow, little concrete mixer, doesn't matter. I am using a fiber reinforced crack resistant concrete, and that's a personal choice. One thing that's kind of fun about this, because the length of this walk, it has been a few months off and on, weather delays, so on and so forth. The neighbors get to watch the progress as well, and you know, that's kind of fun to just see something taking shape. So I put some water in a bucket. That's to help clean off my tools easier. And I like to put some water in my mixing tub before I add the concrete. And if you're not real familiar with how much, I say just start out with a little bit, just wet the tub and start out with a little bit, add to it slowly so you don't end up with a super thin concrete that's pretty much useless. One other thing I do is wet the form and the base. Now the concrete I'm butting this up against was poured yesterday, so it's plenty dry to hit with water today. Otherwise, I would be very careful in spraying that down so as not to wreck my freshly poured concrete. I try to remove unwanted debris like this leaf. I mean, it would make a cool fossil at some point, but I'm not really interested in doing that. And your concrete consistency, I think, is a little bit on preference, but it's recommended to make it about the consistency of good peanut butter. I would say smooth, but it'd be more like chunky peanut butter. So that's about the consistency you're looking for. So then it's still shapeable, not too wet, not so dry that it leaves a very rough finish. So if you're not when you're not real familiar with mixing it, just slowly add water. Just mix all the water you have in the mixing tub. When all that water is absorbed into the mix and you still got a lot of dry powder, just add a little bit of water at a time. Keep the process going. Be patient with it. It's not something worth rushing and wrecking a bag of concrete for. Especially when you're like me and you have to drive 45 minutes to the nearest place that carries the particular type of concrete you want. Something else I'll mention about concrete, make sure you keep your face out of the dust when you pour it, or bare minimum wear a dust mask. I did not, but I'm also being very cautious today to make sure that I'm upwind from when I poured the dry concrete. Just about perfectly the way I like it. Just a splash more water, because I know I want just a little bit more workability. Oh yeah, that's looking really good. There's certainly faster ways to do this. And this type of sidewalk, by the way, it's going to move and so forth. That's kind of the joy of it. It takes on a really unique character over the years. I'm not concerned about that. It's actually a look I'm looking for is the uniqueness of it. That being said, if you want a pristine, flat concrete sidewalk going out to your shed or your garden, well, you might consider hiring a professional contractor instead of doing it yourself. Okay, excellent. Now, I find it easiest to wet my trowel before I start doing the concrete. I also like to have something to kneel down, cardboard, or in this case, just the concrete bag I was working with. And I start filling in my form. I find it best to fill it so you're pushing it up against the previous concrete form. It reduces spacing in between them, which I'm looking for a tighter space when where I can. Use the pointy end of your trowel to get that work down into the corners of your form. Get it close to level, maybe slightly over level. to the top of the form. There's no real critical measurement to that. Just I find it easier when it's right at level or just above it. It's a little bit easier to clean off a thin edge than it is to deal with cracked corners, for instance. And you got plenty of time, depending on the weather, you have plenty of time working with this. This is not a quick set concrete. I've got a couple of hours really. If I'm, well, no, let me take that back. I probably have an hour to work with this if I really push the envelope. I would prefer not to spend an hour on it because then I'm gonna have to wet it down a bit. And that's at the cooler temperature of today. When it's in the higher temperatures, your working time is greatly reduced. For you professionals out there watching this that want to be critical, let's keep in mind that this is making individual stones, if you will. Yeah, they are, the freeze and thaws are gonna make a little bit of movement, most likely, and I'm okay with that. And it's the type of walk path. It's meant to look like a rustic stone path or a cut stone path. It's not meant as a foundation piece. It's only about 2 inches thick. Certainly plenty thick to walk on. I wouldn't park my truck on here, but that's another story altogether, isn't it? You can see at this point in it, I'm not even trying to make a finished edge. I'm trying to make sure everything's packed in nicely, that any major cavities are filled in. Try to push it to my edges, and then I'll come back in just a few minutes after I get everything filled and start doing some finishing work. This is good stuff going on here. At this point, you have a couple of choices. I've been using this wood float quite a bit. Yes, it does wreck it. These are so cheap, and honestly, I don't really care. I actually bought this for doing some other work before, so it's well used. So wet it down. This is one way to screed, is the term. You could just use a short piece of 2x4 or some other piece of wood. I happen to have this on hand, so I've been using it and find it kind of handy for this. It helps draw up some of the bubbles, get some of the water working its way to the top, and kind of helps level this top out. Now, if you want a real rough surface, you can just use this to finish it. I'm not a fan of that real rough look. In fact, I did one form exactly that way. Left it there for several weeks and just don't like it. I decided to pull it out and redo it. And you think that's a waste. Well, it's about $6 a concrete. It's the time that is the real expense. So now that I've done that, I've got another trowel here, another size. Dip that in my dirty water. And I'm doing a light float on it. It's a little bit difficult because I have this form in place. So I have a lot of plastic barriers, if I'll call it that, where it makes the different shapes. But a little bit of patience, you can get a pretty decent job on it, depending on how smooth you want it. I like it almost perfect. Not quite. I like it to still have a little bit of character to it. Personal taste, that's all it is. You can also use a little point on this to help pack things in the corners. And so the professionals will have, of course, their own techniques. But for the do-it-yourselfer, this is a pretty good technique, I think. And here comes the fun part. Go around the edge and just tap it. I know you probably won't see it in this video, but you'll see bubbles popping up. And once I can see it, I like to go along the ribs in the form as well. And of course, when you miss, you get to fix it. But you know how to do that now because you've already done it once. So at this point, I'm going to set a timer. This is the only pour I'm doing today, so I'm going to clean up my tools for the most part. I'm going to let this set a while and probably go over it one more time with my trowel before it gets too hard, too dry here. Well, I'm not liking how that's looking right here. Not sure what's going on. There we go. But based on this temperature and experience, I'm going to set a timer for 45 minutes and check on it, see if it's ready to pull the form. Here's the thing. You don't want to let this dry completely before you pull the form. It will be stuck to it. You will have a really hard time at best and pull everything loose from your base and so forth. So I'd recommend you wait until it's not quite dry to the touch. I'll try to explain it a little bit later. Again, at these temperatures, I know I've got at least 45 minutes to work with, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to use a 45-minute window, come check on it, see how things look. If it's good, then I'll pull this form. But I might also come back and smooth it out a little bit in about 15-20 minutes as it settles in there. So we'll see how that goes. Oh, by the way, while I'm waiting on that, I'll go ahead and fill one of my forms. Looks like I'm going to be able to use another medium. I got a 12, a 10, and an 8-inch planter holder, plastic planter holder. I've got enough concrete. I could probably do a medium-sized one, so that's what I think I'm going to do. I got things cleaned up. Just going to put my mixing tub over here and my pile of dirt that I dug out doing this particular path. And it's starting to glaze over. So at this point, I'm going to do my final finishing touches I want on this particular section. This is a good time for it. It's not completely hazy, just a slight amount of sheen to it. I can see a little bit of the shine as I look down on it. So a good time for me to finish it to the point that I want it to. Remember, I'm not looking for a super smooth finish. I'm looking for something that looks almost finished. Just one little bit away from being totally finished is the best way I can describe what I'm looking for. Your personal taste is your personal taste. Nobody can tell you you're wrong about that. I think it just makes a cool effect as over time the dirt and stains take place and it starts taking on a character all of its own. Now, if this was my patio, yeah, I would want it pretty smooth because I like to keep my patio clean. That's why bother owning a pressure washer if you don't use it, right? So this is not something I'm going to be out here fussing over. I'm looking forward to what nature has in store for this. So I did forget to set a timer. So I'm going to estimate a little bit on time and set myself a timer to come back and look at this as I continue on with some minor other things. And if I don't stop playing with this, it's never going to look right. Perfect. Time to set a timer. Well, I went in and had myself some dinner and back out here again. I know you can't really see this in the video, but the kind of wet sheen is very, very dull on this concrete now. So this looks like a great time to start pulling the form. These particular forms kind of have a spot you can grab onto, and what I find is just sort of work it up from several different spots here. I'm trying to be careful so I can lift it up evenly. This corner is trying to lift out on me. So, yep, I did break a little bit of corner off. Fortunately, it's still wet enough I can reattach this corner, shape this back up a little bit. I probably did a little too much talking at dinner time and could have been out here 5-10 minutes earlier. 10 minutes earlier probably would have been good at this temperature. Anyhow, so then I'll hose this form off and reuse it when I'm ready. Grab my camera here and take a little walk. So this is what it looks like when you do one form at a time and everything is really, really close on those. Show you some of the rest of it. You can see I got very little left. I literally got about 4 more forms worth, and there's a reason I'm going from one end and connecting to the other. It's because of this curve in the sidewalk is going to take some transition work, and so you end up with gaps kind of like this one when you're starting to do a curve. And here's another good size gap where I made a transition point. So you're wondering, what might this look like? Well, this is, from this point forward, I've already put in the paver sand. As you can see, I'm walking up here and the path widens, and then it gets wider up here by my shed. So it's really pretty cool. It's been some interesting work. And so once the paver sand is put in, that's my choice. You don't have to. You can just let it grow in naturally, however you want it to. And so, yeah, another 4 bags of concrete. My sidewalk is complete, and I think it's pretty cool. I don't know what else to say other than it's pretty neat.